work for Ants24, one of our lovely sponsors, I can say that. My talk is tips and tricks. I know quite a lot of this stuff. I like doing this at work. People come up with problems and derail me for an entire day trying to come up with solutions for them. So let's start with PHP tools and libraries. Some of you may have used this thing by Jordi Boggiano, the guy behind Packagist, a little web-based debug console. You type code in on the left, you hit Control-Enter, it'll click the button, it runs it on the right. Very simple. You can do the same with PHP-I think, dash A, yeah, thank you, on the command line. But I like this one because it lets you build it up in stages. If you've done it on the command line, you keep the variables in memory each time, and that's not a very PHP way to do things. I like starting from scratch, throwing it all away and starting again. This thing's great because it keeps the code you've written in a local storage. So if you actually close the tab or close your browser or reload the page, it keeps the code you've written on the left, which is great. So I use this to prototype things, to test weird edge cases that people have come up with. But the best thing it does is allows you to define a bootstrap file. So if you go into the config, right where it says bootstrap, you point that to your autoloader, and then any code you type in that left-hand panel has access to all of your libraries. So I use that to fire up a dependency container, grab any of the services I need, and I'm writing code that could go into a controller or in a command line script straight away. I like using it with a tool called Kint. Don't mispronounce it, it sounds rude. It replaces vardump and print R and all the sort of text-based debugging tools. It's great because it prints them out in a nice browsable format. So you see if I've done the same thing, merged it together, print out strings or arrays. If you put JSON into it, it parses the JSON for you, so you get both the string and the object representation. If any of you use Elasticsearch and have to build complicated JSON queries, I find that really useful for being able to see what the parsable representation is and what the syntax is created is. You've got a bunch of global level functions once you import the library. So D means debug, S means string debug, so you see right at the bottom it's just printed out a string only version. So that's great if you know you're printing out HTML or you're on the command line or something where you can't have a full collapsible interactive system. They also have two-letter versions like DD or SD, which means debug and die. So that pattern you see everywhere where someone will do print R something and then die gets replaced with just two letters. And the best thing, you can't see it on here because it's only one file. If it detects that you're debugging from several files, it will print out the file each one came from on the line. So when you reloaded your page and you've got some debug right in the middle of it and you have no idea where it comes from, you do git diff and you've got hundreds and hundreds of lines of diff. Kint will tell you exactly where you left that debug in. Makes it really easy to spot. It's also got debug backtrace replacement. So if you've ever used this, you've got a function that's going wrong once or a couple of times, you don't know what's calling it to cause it to go wrong. You can stick debug backtrace in there. Kint has a thing in Kint, static call to trace, and it produces a nice browser one like this. It grabs the code for you, so you can see the lines of code, and you can also see the arguments passed in. It's very slow. It's great, but if you do this 2 or 3 times on a page load, you'll be looking at 10, 20-second page load times. It's very intensive, but used sparingly. A brilliant way to solve problems. My favourite PHP library to use is one called Amiss. It's an ORM, a little data mapper, which means it keeps its hands off your code base. Your models, your objects don't need to know about Amiss. You put the annotations in another file. When you want Amiss to save it, it looks like those annotations, so it can save it or load them independently. There's no need to extend other object like the active record pattern. So I use this in a repository, so it lets me keep all my persistence logic out of the main application. It doesn't matter whether I'm saving with legacy MySQL, with our old ORM, with Amiss, with our in-house ORM. You get to mix and match whatever persistence layer is best for the object in question. It's a small project. There's no real community to it. There's one guy who writes it, very friendly, very helpful. It's in Australia, so there's some time zone issues occasionally. But the best thing is the documentation. For such a small library, it's got tons of documentation, or maybe not tons, it's got the right amount. You can read through it in about an hour, end to end. You'll know every single thing about that library. It's not just like a PHP document to run where he's typed some comments on some of the methods and it's done then. It's narrative. You will start with basics and it'll get you through every single layer of the library. So once I'd read that, I knew that I could trust the code. I could have a look at it and it all matches up with the documentation. And I feel that I understand the library brilliantly in such a small amount of time. It's also got comprehensive unit tests. If that's something, I don't run them because it's an ORM. I trust that it does the job and he runs them. But it's nice to know about that. XDebug, I imagine everyone's used XDebug at some point. Who's used the profiling functionality in XDebug? Yeah, so this is a great way to work out why is this page slow? Where's it spending its time? This used to be quick. What's changed? So a profile records each function call that your application makes and how long it took. The easiest way to grab this is there's a Firefox extension and a Chrome extension that give a little button you can see in both, and you click profile, you reload the page, and it will dump a incomprehensible file into your temp directory. So this is where a tool called WebGrind comes in. It's like this. This is a busy screenshot, so bear with me. WebGrind will load that file and pass it out and display a list of all the functions that were called, how long they spent calling other functions, and how long they spent doing stuff themselves. So this is an unusual page load from our application. You can see it spent, this is percentages, it spent 43% of its time doing curl calls. 4 of those were to Elasticsearch, and they took 21% of the page load. And 1 was to Twitter, which was 12% of the entire page load was spent waiting for Twitter. So immediately from that, they can see that's the thing to optimize. Is our network slow, or are we making unnecessary calls? Are those Elasticsearch queries particularly inefficient, or is Twitter being naff and we need to cache it? Yeah, usually is the answer there. Facebook as well, 1 call, 10% of the entire page load. Then database queries, you can see our nice mix of different database things there. And then at the bottom, file exists. We made 180 file exist calls in one run of the application. And I see that's coming out of our template loader, our auto loader. Could I reduce the amount of time this code spends looking at the disk if the disk is slow, as it often is in virtual machines? Beyond there, there's like this would be 10 slides long if I printed everything. There's literally every function your application calls. It's such a good way to work out where it spends its time. It can take a little bit getting used to know whether you need to, like, where to look, where to find where it actually matters, where it's taking time. But a really good way to sort out application speed issues. There, URLs you can get them from. You can also use it on the command line. You obviously can't use that XDebug extension in the browser, so you pass this -d XDebug profile enable command line parameter. You can set up a little bash alias if you want, so I have PHP-profile that ultimately turns on the profiler, runs that command line script, and turns it off again. So we profiled one of our newsletters that we send out. I found it was spending a hideous amount of time trying to generate cache files. We always thought it was taking longer and longer. Writing the cache was taking so long that we just turned the cache off and got free speed up. Then we can start looking at why is the cache slow? It's the easiest way to fix it by the next newsletter. Who develops on Windows? There are dozens of us. This is what the command prompt often looks like for people, or what they imagine it looks like on Windows. You type in things, and it says this isn't something I recognise. It's small. The font is awful. It's not the way that it's best to use the command line on Windows. There's a great program called ConEmu, written by one of those amazing Russian coders. My colour scheme looks awful on this projector. One of those guys who just churns out tons and tons of code, and he's written this from scratch in a couple of years. It's got tabs. It can host various different implementations, so you can put PowerShell and the command line and PuTTY and SSH all in one window. So you see I've got PowerShell on the left and PuTTY on the right. You can have shortcuts. So I've got Open PuTTY, so I can look at all my web servers, or shortcuts to some servers I log into very often. My Vagrant machine, all with shortcut keys. This is probably less amazing to people used to better terminals, but from Windows, this is a real revelation to have this kind of high-quality command line work. It does a few insane things that others don't. You can split them into tiles. You can host GUI applications. You can put like Windows Explorer in a tile next to Notepad, next to PowerShell. No idea why you want to do that, but it's there. Yeah. Point about PowerShell, definitely use that over the standard Windows command line. If only because it has aliases for the common Linux tools. If you type ls, it goes, right, I know exactly what that means. It will map that to the Windows one under the hood, otherwise you don't spend ages just tapping away and getting nothing. PuTTY is the normal SSH client on Windows. Very old, venerable. Kitty is a nice little replacement for it. Doesn't do much, adds a few features. It will reconnect to your sessions after you turn your computer off and back on. You can resize the config window. If you connect to more than 6 servers ever, PuTTY starts to get a bit out of the way, so yeah, Kitty's great for that. And this is a thing I love to do when logging to servers. Colour the background, colour the foreground, so you can tell at an instant glance what you're logged into. So no, dev server, mail server, one of the Raspberry Pis in the office, staging server, production server, dev server. You can't tell them all apart instantly if you've got several production servers that are all going to be red. But if you change, like if you Alt-Tab and you're in a red window, you know you don't need to start typing dangerous commands. In a blue window, that's fine. This is easy to do in PuTTY and Kitty. Excuse the awful interface, this is another thing. Yep, go to colours, you get the lovely Windows 3.1 era colour picker that still hasn't been updated. But yeah, choose your foreground and background colour. Surprisingly difficult to do on Linux and OS X, I found. They recommend that you change this in your profile on the server. So when you log in, you say your bash profile has the colour for the prompt. That might not be an option for everyone. Our sysadmin might get a bit grumpy if I ask to change my bash profile on every single server to add red to it. It's not the kind of thing you like spending his time doing. So actually I prefer the Windows option if you just send it out locally. Git. Who uses Git as their version control system? Who thinks Git is brilliant? Who thinks Git is easy to use? That's more than I thought. Lots of people have huge issues with it. Unsurprisingly, it's got a very odd set of assumptions about the world. On Windows, and in fact I think on OS X, it's worth installing the GitHub desktop client. It comes with a much newer version of Git than you get if you install Xcode on OS X. You end up with like Git 1.1, so it's something really old, missing a lot of the nice helpful features. GitHub desktop gives you a newer version, and it auto updates. It adds this great thing called PoshGit into PowerShell, which gives you tab completion on these nice little coloured prompts that shows you modified file, you've staged a file, you've committed, and there's something to push. If you're a bash user, there's loads of equivalents. This is a very popular one, bash git prompt, but you can just Google for bash git and you'll get one of these things. I'd recommend anyone working with Git has one of these prompt add-ins. It saves so much time typing git status and trying to read and understand the output to just see, I've staged a file, I've not staged a file. And in fact, loads of the problems I see when doing code reviews that someone's missed something because they didn't notice. They thought they knew what they'd edited, they typed git add for all those files, but there was something missing. And if they'd just been able to look in a terminal and see that there's something that says red, then they've missed that out. Aliases. So when you do git diff, sometimes the output's great, sometimes it doesn't seem to really show you what you want to see. So it's an alternate way. If you do that -b color words algorithm stuff, it means it doesn't show you white space. It'll color in just the words that have changed rather than the whole lines. And it uses a different way of working out the diff that sometimes is better if you've got an incomprehensible output. So I have that alias as diff2. Another one I like, share. So if you want to push a new branch, you normally go git push u origin branch name. It's not complicated, but it's a little bit of stuff to remember to do each time. So that share alias lets you just like git share, and your branch gets copied up to the origin and is available for everybody. And then that last one, nuke. When you're done with a branch, it's been reviewed, it's been merged in, you're happy with it, you want to get rid of it, so your origin doesn't end up with hundreds and hundreds of old branches. I've not found a way that you could type that and it not delete master. So you have to really trust yourself that you'll never be on master and type git nuke. And that especially doesn't merge well with this next tip, which is for autocorrect. So if you typo a command name, like you see you type git studs there instead of status, Git notices that, worked out that it was probably status that I wanted to type, and will autocorrect it for me. If you type git nuke, it'll go, you probably meant nuke. I've deleted master. I've never actually done this, but it's always in the back of my mind. And I've not recommended that all of the developers put that in unless they're really confident in their typing skills. But if you don't want to put the nuke in, put the autocorrect in. It just saves you those couple of seconds each time you're typing too quick, you mess something up, and it goes, I don't know what that is. And then finally, a couple of shortcuts. If you normally do git checkout file and you've got one of these nice add-ins like the prompt or git bash, if you do git checkout --, Git will only autocomplete files it knows you've changed. It saves quite a bit of time from trying to think, I'll do git status, I see it in 6 folders deep, I'll start typing and autocompleting those folders. Git checkout --, press tab, that's the file that gets put in there. And then this is the newest one I've learned, and I really like it. A single dash means that branch I was on previously. So you might have had to do this song and dance quite a lot, where you're on the branch, you check out master, you pull it, you switch back to your branch, you rebase it back onto master, you go back to master, and then you merge in your branch. A lot of typing, kind of pointless. You can swap that all for that sequence of dashes at the bottom. Each time dash means that branch I was on previously, and it cuts out loads of the sort of faffing around that you have to do. Any questions?
Is Amiss the mapper? Is that database agnostic? I mean,
it supports MySQL and SQLite at the moment, I think, but it doesn't generate very complicated queries.
Focused on DEBUS?
No, it's a tiny standalone layer. I think there's a new version coming where it's refactoring it to have a database access layer that can be extended. One of the philosophies is it doesn't generate complicated queries. It tries to make it as easy as possible for the query cache to answer things. So so it probably wouldn't be too difficult to port it to any database platform. Anything else? Right, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.